According to Surah Anbiya, Ibrahim a.s. on one occasion was talking against idol worship to his father and his people. They said, "Have you come to us with truth, or are you of those who joke?" He said, "No, rather your Lord is the Lord of the heavens and the earth who created them, and I to that am of those who testify. I swear by Allah, I will surely plan against your idols after you have turned and gone away." So he made them into fragments, except a large one amongst them, that they might return to it and question. They said, "Who has done this to our gods? Indeed, he is of the wrongdoers." They said, "We heard a youth mention them in an ill manner. He is called Ibrahim." They said, "Then bring him before the people, so that they might testify." They said, "Have you done this to our gods, O Ibrahim?" He said, "Rather, this is the largest of them. He's the one who did it, so ask them if they should be able to speak." So they returned to blaming themselves and said to each other, "Indeed, you are the wrongdoers." Then they were confounded with shame, and they said, "You know full well that these idols don't speak." Now these verses depict an interaction taking place between Ibrahim a.s. and his people, and although we know that he has been arguing against polytheism ever since he was young, and we also saw in the previous episodes that he referred to himself as a Hanif, it is safe to assume that at this stage he was a Rasul appointed by Allah, because while addressing idol worship with his people, he mentions something important, something different. He says, "Your Lord is the Lord of the heavens and the earth, and to that I testify." So he is now bearing witness to the truth, which is what other prophets have also done to their people after they have become prophets. If you are bearing witness, that means you have personal confirmation. In fact, this will also explain why his nation is asking him if he has come to them with the truth or if he's just joking. In other words, is he truly claiming to be a prophet who is bringing a message from God, or is this just some kind of joke? So we can be assured that at this point in time, Ibrahim a.s. has been appointed as a Rasul. Now, interestingly, after testifying to the truth, Ibrahim swears by Allah that he's going to conspire against their gods after they turn away. Now, based on Islamic literature, it's believed that the nation had to go to attend a religious festival outside of the city. In their absence, when they all had turned away, Ibrahim a.s. conspired against their idols just as he promised. He smashed all of the idols with an axe, except the biggest one, and he left the axe on the shoulder of the biggest idol. This in fact explains why the verses state that after smashing the idols, he left the biggest one so that they might all turn to it. In other words, with the axe on the biggest idol's shoulder, naturally they all would turn to him. Therefore, to prove his point, Ibrahim a.s. created a scenario where it would appear as if the obvious culprit was the biggest idol. So when the nation returned and saw the situation, they asked who could have committed such a huge crime, and then some suggested that it might be Ibrahim. They've heard that he speaks ill of their gods, and at that point the people are told to bring this man before everyone so that everyone can bear witness. Now, there are some questions that we should be asking at this stage. Why is Ibrahim a.s. smashing idols? Just to prove a point. Are prophets allowed to do this? How come prophets in the past have never done this? For example, Musa a.s. had to give a message to the Pharaoh as well. It was a nation that was indulging in idol worship. How come Musa a.s. is not doing something like this? Besides this, we can also ask this question that if Ibrahim was raised in this city and spent his entire life speaking against idols, and he also promised that he would conspire against them, then seeing the smashed idols, shouldn't everyone have known instantly that this must be the work of Ibrahim? Why are they even asking that who could have done this? And the fact that some people say that there is a young man called Ibrahim and we have heard that he speaks ill of our gods, that sounds like these people don't really know Ibrahim. They haven't really met him. They've just heard about the kind of things that he says. Now again, if Ibrahim has been raised in this city all his life, and everyone knows him because he is this famous priest's son, why are people talking about him as if they don't really know him? Also, we could ask this question, why is Ibrahim swearing to them that he will plan against their gods? Why not just quietly do it? And then when the people are told to bring Ibrahim in front of everyone to bear witness, we could ask, bear witness to what? Now, based on historical records, Ibrahim a.s. was raised in the city of Ur. And the Quran also mentions a king that is in charge of the city. The king is believed to be named Nimrod. But the king had a huge kingdom, and there were many cities that were part of his kingdom. Ur was just one of them, and it also happened to be the greatest city in the king's kingdom. So it's believed that Ibrahim a.s. was well known in the city of Ur because his father was a very famous priest, but his message was being spread to the neighboring cities in the kingdom as well. So people were hearing about this man called Ibrahim and how he denies the worship of idols. Now, whenever Allah sends a Rasul to a large nation, it is important that everyone should testify to the message. Everyone should get a chance to hear and see the truth. After they have testified in their hearts, it is their choice if they want to accept the message or not. And for that, they will be held accountable. In the case of Musa a.s., Allah gave the Pharaoh the idea to arrange a competition on the day of a large festival where everyone from the city would be present. In this manner, Allah ensured that everyone would see the miracle and hear the message. The exact same thing is what Allah had planned for Ibrahim a.s. In the case of Musa a.s. was easily able to walk up to the Pharaoh and give God's message because the Pharaoh and all of the ministers knew him. He was raised in the Pharaoh's house. But Ibrahim couldn't do that. He couldn't just enter the king's palace, bypass all security, and give God's message. So to make sure that the message was given and that everyone in the king's kingdom witnesses the truth, Allah planned a demonstration. Ibrahim's father, as mentioned before, was a popular priest. He had a very large temple where he not only made gods and sold them, but people would also come to pay tribute to the gods by feeding them. So when Ibrahim a.s. swore that he would conspire against the gods, he did that to make sure that the message spreads. People hear that he has promised to do something terrible to their gods that are housed in his father's temple. So why is he announcing this? Because in this way, once the incident happens, instead of blaming an innocent person, people will think of him. Now, when the incident, of course, happened and the news spread, people from outside of Ur came to see the temple as well. And naturally, the king's guards and ministers arrived at the scene too, because this was a huge thing that had just happened. So naturally, with all of these people arriving at the scene, including the king's guards and ministers and people outside of Ur, everyone is asking who could have possibly done something like this. Now, since Ibrahim's promise to conspire against the idols had spread in Ur and also in the neighboring cities of the kingdom, there were many people over there who had heard about Ibrahim's claim, about his message, about his threat. So when the king's ministers arrived and they asked who could have possibly done this, these people responded by saying, "We remember hearing about a young man called Ibrahim who often spoke ill of our gods." Now, of course, given the nature of the crime, Ibrahim must be taken to the king and he has to be tried in a public court, which is precisely what the ministers suggested. So what do they want people to witness? What do they want people to testify to? They want everyone to testify to the punishment that will be given to anyone who destroys their gods. But Allah's plan was something entirely different. Allah's plan was that at that stage, with all people from Ur and the neighboring cities present, Ibrahim can explain God's message in such a way that everyone will testify, just like Musa a.s. did. So Ibrahim a.s. tells everyone that clearly the culprit is the biggest one who is holding the axe. And the ministers are confused because they realize that their idols cannot speak. They cannot defend themselves. So in front of everyone, they admit that idols cannot speak, to which Ibrahim questions why they worship something so weak. Now at this stage, everyone in the kingdom is watching and testifying to the truth. It makes sense to them. Now that Ibrahim a.s. has his audience, he also challenges and confuses the king. And that story is explained in the next episode. So of course, now with everyone witnessing the truth, the ministers and the king, they get scared. They have a secret council and they advise each other to burn Ibrahim. That's the only way to prevent people from leaving their gods. So at that stage, Allah then shows everyone watching a miracle. just like he showed the entire nation of Egypt a miracle through Musa's staff. Ibrahim a.s. is thrown into the fire, but he's not burnt. He's absolutely safe. So now with the message given and a miracle shown, everyone in the kingdom has testified to the truth, and now it is up to them if they wish to follow the truth or ignore it. Assalamu alaikum.